Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood at the entrance of the Galactic Federation's assessment center, her military-issued duffel bag slung over one shoulder. The bag contained nothing but basic workout gear, compression shorts, a moisture-wicking tank top, and her favorite running shoes. She couldn't help but smile at how the security scanner was frantically blinking red, its alien symbols flickering in patterns she'd seen 5 times already on her way here. "Please remain stationary," Earth representative chirped a mechanical voice as 3 more scanners descended from the ceiling. Their pale blue beams swept over her body repeatedly, each pass seeming more urgent than the last. Anomalous readings detected. Initiating comprehensive molecular scan. Sarah suppressed a sigh. She'd been warned about this by the diplomatic corps. Apparently, being human was enough to throw most Galactic Federation technology into a tizzy. The doors finally slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a reception area that looked more like a medical quarantine zone. A dozen aliens of various species stood behind transparent barriers, all clutching data pads and staring at her with expressions she was still learning to interpret. The tallest among them, a willowy being with iridescent skin and 4 arms, stepped forward. "I am Dr. X-Thrillic, lead evaluator for the Joint Species Special Operations Program." Their voice wavered slightly. "According to these readings, you are unaugmented." "Completely natural," Sarah confirmed, setting down her bag. "Lieutenant Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Force. I brought my medical records if you'd like to verify." "That won't be necessary," interrupted a stocky, reptilian creature who was furiously manipulating a holographic display. "Our initial scans show bone density exceeding military-grade ceramics, muscle fiber count beyond our charts, and—" They trailed off, multifaceted eyes widening. "This can't be correct. Your cardiac readings suggest an efficiency that would require extensive cybernetic enhancement." Sarah tried not to laugh. "Actually, I'm a bit out of shape. I've been taking it easy since the Chicago Marathon last month." The room went deadly quiet. Dr. X-Thrillic's assistant, a small amphibian-like being, dropped their data pad with a clatter. "Taking it easy?" Dr. X-Thrillic's skin shifted from iridescent blue to a pale lavender. "Please clarify taking it easy in the context of completing a—" They consulted their translator. "Marathon." "Oh, Sarah shrugged. "Just maintaining baseline fitness. Light cardio, basic strength training, nothing too intense. Maybe 15 kilometers of running every other day. Some bodyweight exercises, that sort of thing." The reptilian evaluator made a choking sound. 15 kilometers. As recreation. In Earth gravity. "Well, yeah." Sarah glanced around the room, suddenly very aware of how every alien was staring at her, as if she'd grown a second head. "I mean, the marathon was obviously longer, about 42 kilometers. But that was a race, not daily training." Dr. X-Thrillic swayed slightly, their lower set of arms gripping the barrier for support. "And this is common among humans. The marathon. Pretty common, yeah. My finishing time wasn't anything special. Middle of the pack. Really. Some of my friends do ultramarathons, which are way more intense." The small amphibian being finally found their voice. "Ultra? Marathon. Usually anything longer than 50 kilometers, Sarah explained helpfully. Though the really hardcore ones go up to 100 or more. Those aren't really my thing, but—" "Emergency recies." Dr. X-Thrillic's voice cracked as they slammed an appendage against a glowing panel. "Medical team to evaluation chamber 3. Bring stabilizing agents." They turned to Sarah, skin now cycling through a rainbow of distressed colors. Please remain here while we verify our equipment calibration. Clearly, there has been some sort of systematic error." Sarah watched as the evaluation team hurried out through a side door, leaving only 2 security drones hovering nervously near the ceiling. She could hear raised voices from the adjacent room, catching phrases like metabolic impossibility and gravitational adaptation limits and complete restructuring of physical assessment protocols. Settling into a chair that creaked ominously under her, apparently excessive bone density, Sarah pulled out her phone and opened her fitness tracking app. Might as well log yesterday's workout while she waited. As she typed in her sets and reps, one of the security drones drifted closer, its sensors whirring in what she was starting to recognize as mechanical distress. "Don't worry," she told it with a gentle smile. "I really am taking it easy. Wait until they see what humans can do when we're actually trying." The drone made a sound suspiciously like a whimper and retreated to the far corner of the room, where it huddled against its companion, both of their status lights blinking in synchronized anxiety. Sarah leaned back, wondering if she should mention the CrossFit competitions she'd done in college. Then again, given the reaction to a simple marathon, maybe the conversation could wait until after they'd finished recalibrating their equipment. She had a feeling this was going to be an interesting assessment. After 20 minutes of hushed arguments from the adjacent room, Dr. Xthrillic returned with a much larger entourage. Their skin had settled into an anxious yellow-green, and they clutched a newly upgraded data pad like a shield. "We have recalibrated our equipment," they announced, voice carefully modulated. "You may begin your physical assessment whenever you're ready." Sarah stood, stretching her arms overhead. "Mind if I warm up first? Don't want to pull anything." "Warm up?" The reptilian evaluator from earlier narrowed their eyes. "Your body temperature appears optimal for your species." No, I mean some light exercises to prepare for the assessment. Basic stuff." Sarah dropped into a lunge, drawing horrified gasps as she began dynamic stretches. "Just need about 10 minutes." The room's structural integrity sensors began wailing as Sarah moved through her routine. Each jump squat triggered a new alarm, the floor's pressure sensors clearly unprepared for the force she was generating. When she dropped into a plank position and began doing one-armed push-ups, Dr. Xthrillic's assistant sprinted from the room, returning moments later with a thick manual labeled "Emergency Protocols for Unprecedented Physical Phenomena." "This is impossible," muttered a new arrival, a tall, military-looking alien with chrome-plated exoskeleton segments. "I am General Vkitter, Director of Strength Assessment, and I demand to know what cybernetic enhancements you're using." Sarah completed her set of push-ups and rolled smoothly to her feet. "None, sir. This is all natural human capability. Would you like to scan me again?" "We've already scanned her 6 times, Dr. Xthrillic interjected, their skin rippling with distress patterns. "She appears to be completely organic." "Impossible." General Vkitter's exoskeleton plates clattered in agitation. No organic being could generate that much force in standard gravity without mechanical assistance. "Look at the pressure readings." Sarah pulled her jump rope from her bag. "Would seem more help. I usually do about 5 minutes of this to get my heart rate up." Before anyone could stop her, she began jumping rope with the casual ease of someone who'd done this thousands of times. The rope whipped through the air faster than the security drones could track, creating a humming sound that sent them fleeing to their corner again. "Her vertical acceleration exceeds our combat response units," one of the younger observers exclaimed, their tentacles writhing in excitement. "And the repetition rate, she's moving faster than our targeting systems can process." General Vkitter's chrome plating had taken on a distinctly pale tinge. Stop this at once. This facility cannot handle these stress levels." Sarah caught the rope and stopped, barely even breathing hard. "Sorry about that. Should I skip the burpees then?" "The what?" Dr. Xthrillic asked weakly. "Never mind. Look, I can prove I'm not enhanced." Sarah gestured to their scanning equipment. "Bring out your most sophisticated biomedical scanner. I'll submit to any test you want." The next 30 minutes involved increasingly complex scanning procedures, each producing results that sent the evaluation team into fresh rounds of confusion and debate. Sarah sat patiently as they used everything from quantum-level cellular analysis to gravitational mass mapping. "This makes no sense," General Vkitter finally declared, staring at the results. According to these readings, your muscle fiber density should make movement impossible. The energy requirements alone. Oh, that reminds me. Sarah perked up. Do you have any water? I should stay hydrated for the actual assessment. A medical officer hurriedly brought her a container of purified water. The room watched in fascinated horror as she drank it in long pulls, their sensors documenting her highly efficient hydration process. Remarkable, murmured Dr. Exthrillic, making rapid notes. The liquid integration rate suggests internal systems operating at theoretical maximum efficiency, and you say all humans can. Well, not all humans are in the same shape, Sarah admitted. But yeah, basically, we're built for this kind of thing. Early humans used to persistence hunt. You know, chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. The security drones made electronic whimpering sounds from their corner. Speaking of which, Sarah continued brightly, should we start the actual assessment? I'm all warmed up now. General Veter's exoskeleton gave a distinct rattle. That wasn't the assessment. No, that was just stretching and light cardio. Basic preparation, you know. Sarah bounced lightly on her toes, causing several nearby instruments to register seismic disturbances. I'm ready for the real tests whenever you are. Dr. Exthrillic's skin had shifted to a previously unseen shade of gray. They turned to their assistant, who was still clutching the emergency protocol manual. Contact the facility engineering department. Tell them to reinforce everything. And they glanced nervously at Sarah. Perhaps we should evacuate the non-essential personnel first. Sarah tried not to smile as various observers quickly found reasons to step out of the room. She hadn't even mentioned her weekend rock climbing hobby yet. Something told her this assessment was going to be unlike anything the Galactic Federation had seen before. While the engineering team rushed to reinforce the testing equipment, Sarah took another water break. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through her fitness app to check her weekly stats. A young alien with phosphorescent markings and large, curious eyes crept closer to her station. I'm Zip, they said, their translator giving their name a slight electronic buzz. I'm a junior xenobiologist. May I ask what you're looking at? Sarah smiled, turning her phone screen toward the fascinated scientist. Just my workout tracking app. See, it logs all my exercises, nutrition, heart rate data, that kind of thing. Zip's markings pulsed with interest as they leaned closer. These numbers, are they your personal bests for lifting planetary mass units? Oh, those are just my regular working sets for deadlifts, Sarah explained. Personal records are on another screen. Here, let me show you. What? A new voice cut through the room. 3 more scientists had drifted over, unable to contain their curiosity. The one who'd spoken, a crystalline being with fractal pattern limbs, was staring at the screen in disbelief. You regularly lift more than twice your body mass. For entertainment. Well, yeah, it's good for bone density and overall strength. Sarah swiped to another screen. These are some videos from my CrossFit box. Your what? Zip's markings had shifted to a deep purple of confusion. CrossFit. It's a type of high-intensity workout program. Lots of different movements combined together. Sarah tapped play on a video of her last competition. See, this was from last month's team event. The small crowd around her grew larger as more alien observers abandoned their pretense of professional distance. The video showed Sarah and her teammates doing a relay of Olympic lifts, gymnastics movements, and sprint intervals. But the metabolic demands. One observer stuttered. The rapid transitions between different force applications, the repeated submaximal exertions. Zip's eyes had grown even larger. And humans do this, voluntarily. Oh sure, CrossFit's pretty popular. Though some people prefer different programs. Sarah scrolled through more videos. My sister's more into powerlifting. That's where you focus on maximizing 3 main lifts. And my roommate does gymnastics rings and calisthenics stuff. She trailed off, noticing that Zip was frantically taking notes while the other observers were displaying various signs of distress. The crystalline being had developed several new fractal patterns that Sarah suspected weren't normal. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "Okay." General Futur had returned, their chrome plating now showing stress marks. "You're showing us videos of humans voluntarily subjecting themselves to what appears to be military-grade physical conditioning, and you ask if everything is okay." "Military-grade?" Sarah laughed. No, this is just recreational fitness. Military training is way more intense. Here, let me show you some Marine Corps training videos." "No." Dr. Xthrillic rushed forward, their skin strobing in panic patterns. "No more videos. Zip, why are you still recording this?" "But Doctor," Zip's markings pulsed excitedly. "This is unprecedented. The voluntary engagement in progressive physical stress for non-survival purposes, the cultural normalization of extreme physical capabilities, the implications for evolutionary psychology alone. The implications are that humans are insane." The crystalline being had developed even more complicated fractal patterns. They treat military conditioning as recreation. They pursue activities that increase physical difficulty. They stopped, new patterns forming. "Wait, what is an ultra-marathon?" Sarah brightened. "Oh, those are great. They're races longer than regular marathons. My friend Julia just did this amazing one in Death Valley." Death Valley. Several observers took involuntary steps backward. "Yeah, it's this beautiful desert area. The race is about 135 miles through the valley in midsummer. Temperatures get up to around 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Julia said it was a really fun challenge." The crystalline being made a sound like breaking glass and had to be led away by medical staff. General Futur was making clicking noises that their translator couldn't seem to process. Even Dr. Xthrillic seemed to have run out of words, their skin cycling through colors so rapidly it looked like a malfunctioning display. Only Zip seemed delighted, their markings now pulsing in rapid, excited patterns. "Lieutenant Chen, could you explain more about this Death Valley challenge? And perhaps show me more about these CrossFit competitions?" "For scientific documentation, of course." "Absolutely not." Dr. Xthrillic finally found their voice. "This information is clearly a mimetic hazard. We need to." They were interrupted by an alarm. The video Sarah had been showing Zip had somehow been broadcast to the facility's main information network. 3 different species had already filed for emergency evolutionary counseling, and the Galactic Military Affairs Committee was demanding an immediate conference. Sarah quickly pocketed her phone. "Sorry about that. Should we start the actual physical testing? I promise to take it easy." The look of pure terror that passed through the room suggested that everyone's definition of taking it easy had just been dramatically revised. After a brief delay to handle the mimetic hazard paperwork, the evaluation team finally began the physical assessment. They'd cleared all non-essential personnel from the room, though Zip had somehow convinced Dr. Xthrillic to let them stay for scientific documentation. "We'll start with basic strength metrics," General Futur announced, their chrome plating freshly polished to hide the stress marks. "This is our standard grip strength analyzer. It's calibrated for." There was a sharp crack as Sarah squeezed the device. The display flashed a series of error messages before going dark. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," Sarah said, looking at the broken apparatus. "I didn't realize it would be so, sensitive." "Sensitive." General Futur's voice rose an octave. "That unit was rated for Praxian megafauna. It's designed to measure creatures that can crush spacecraft hulls." Dr. Xthrillic's skin had taken on a fascinating new pattern of swirls. "Bring in the reinforced version, the one we use for testing industrial machinery." A heavy-duty machine was wheeled in, its construction noticeably more robust than the previous model. Sarah waited for instructions, trying not to feel self-conscious as multiple recording devices focused on her. "Now," Dr. Xthrillic said carefully, "please apply pressure gradually. We need to establish your baseline." Another crack, louder this time. The reinforced analyzer's display hadn't just gone dark. It had shattered. Fascinating. Zip's markings were pulsing rapidly as they took notes. The force generation exceeds our highest-rated measurement equipment. And you say this is without any mechanical assistance. Just regular human strength, Sarah shrugged. Though I do rock climb a lot, so my grip might be a bit above average. General Veter made a series of clicking sounds that caused their translator to temporarily shut down. When it rebooted, they turned to a nervous-looking technician. Bring in the hull integrity tester. The machine they rolled in looked more like a small spaceship component than exercise equipment. Its massive frame was covered in warning labels in at least 12 different languages. This, General Veter said with grim satisfaction, is what we use to test the structural integrity of battleship hull plates. The previous record holder was a Drachnid warrior from a 3.2G world. Surely this will give us an accurate. The machine whined, groaned, and displayed a reading that caused 3 different technical assistants to faint. Is that good? Sarah asked, genuinely uncertain. The number on the display meant nothing to her, but judging by the reactions, it was significant. Good? Zip bounced excitedly. You just exceeded the compression strength of industrial diamond. The implications for human muscle fiber density alone air. That was just a warm-up squeeze, Sarah interrupted apologetically. Would you like me to actually try now? The room went so quiet you could hear the security drones whimpering in their corner. Dr. Xfrilik's skin had gone completely transparent, revealing the circulatory system that appeared to be having a crisis of its own. Actually, try. General Veter's voice was barely a whisper. You mean you weren't exerting maximum effort? Well, no. I didn't want to break another machine. But if you need my real max strength. No. The word came from at least 15 different translators simultaneously. Sarah noticed General Veter discreetly accessing a secure terminal, their chrome-plated fingers typing rapidly. She caught fragments about invasion defense protocols and immediate funding requests for planetary fortifications. Perhaps, Dr. Xfrilik suggested weakly, we should move on to the endurance testing. Oh, great. Sarah brightened. I was hoping to get some cardio in today. My training schedule has a tempo run planned anyway. Training. Schedule. One of the remaining technical assistants asked, unable to help themselves. Yeah, I'm following a program to improve my 10K time. My last race was okay, but I really want to break 35 minutes in the next one. Zip's markings flashed brilliant colors. 35 minutes. For 10 kilometers. In Earth gravity. It's a pretty average time for competitive runners, Sarah explained. The elite athletes are way faster. The technical assistant made a small choking sound and had to be led away by medical staff. General Veter was now frantically adding something about enhanced perimeter defenses to their secure message. Dr. Xfrilik consulted their data pad, which was showing multiple warning symbols. Before we proceed to the endurance assessment, I feel compelled to ask, are there any other physical capabilities we should be aware of? Any other recreational activities we should factor into our equipment preparations? Sarah thought for a moment. Well, I do some gymnastics and parkour on weekends. Oh, and I'm getting into Olympic weightlifting, but I'm still pretty new at that. Only been doing it for a few months. The sound of Zip's excited note-taking was drowned out by what appeared to be General Veter quietly praying in their native language. The endurance testing chamber looked like a cross between a spacecraft simulator and a hamster wheel. Its curved running surface was embedded with sensors, surrounded by holographic monitoring displays and what appeared to be emergency containment fields. This facility, Dr. Xfrilik explained, their skin now a cautious shade of blue-green, can simulate various gravitational conditions and environmental factors. We'll start with standard gravity and... Mind if I set my watch? Sarah interrupted, tapping her fitness tracker. I want to make sure this counts toward my weekly mileage. The evaluation team exchanged worried glances. Weekly. Mileage. Yeah, I'm supposed to hit about 50 miles this week. Yesterday was a rest day, so I need to make up some distance. 3 more warning lights appear on Dr. Xthrillick's datapad. Perhaps we should begin with a light warm-up pace. The standard protocol is 5 minutes at 40% maximum exertion. Sarah had already started jogging, her easy stride causing the chamber sensors to erupt in a cascade of readings. The holographic displays flickered, trying to keep up with the data stream. Heart rate and oxygen uptake are stable. One of the medical officers stared at their readings in disbelief. But she's moving at pursuit predator speeds. Oh, this is just my easy pace, Sarah called out, barely breathing hard. About 6 minutes per mile. Good for building aerobic base. Zip, who had somehow acquired 3 additional data pads to record everything, was practically vibrating with excitement. And humans maintain this velocity for recreation. Sure. Though for actual training, you need to mix it up. Speed work, hills, long runs. Speaking of duration, Dr. Xthrillick interrupted. How long do you intend to maintain this pace? Sarah checked her watch. Well, I was hoping to get in at least 10 miles today. So maybe an hour and a half. Unless you need me to go longer for the test data. The medical officer dropped their scanner. General Vketer, who had just returned from sending more urgent messages about planetary defenses, made a sound like gears grinding. An hour and a half. Dr. Xthrillick's skin had gone completely transparent again. At this speed, continuously. I can slow down if it's causing problems with the sensors, Sarah offered helpfully, still running with perfect form. Or we could add some intervals to make it more interesting. More interesting. The medical officer seemed to be having trouble with their translator. Yeah, you know, pick up the pace every few minutes, work on turnover, that kind of thing. Though I usually save the real speed work for track days. The chamber's environmental monitors began overheating, unused to tracking sustained output at these levels. A second shift of observers arrived, relieving the first team who needed to take a break just from watching. Remarkable adaptation to sustained cardiovascular stress, Zip muttered, their markings creating complex patterns of scientific notation. The implications for evolutionary development under high-gravity conditions. 2 hours later, Sarah was still running. She maintained what she called a comfortable conversational pace, while cheerfully explaining human concepts like fartlek training and negative splits to an increasingly disturbed audience. And you mentioned something called ultra-marathons earlier. Zip asked, now surrounded by a small mountain of data pads. Oh yeah, those are fun. My friend Julia just did this great one called the Badwater 135. It's this race through Death Valley, one of Earth's hottest deserts. You run 135 miles in temperatures up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The elevation change is pretty wild too. Stop. Dr. Xthrillick's skin had cycled through so many panic colors, they'd invented several new ones. Please stop running and exit the chamber. Slowly. Sarah gradually slowed to a walk, then stepped out, looking barely winded. Everything okay? We can keep going if you need more data. 3 different species immediately submitted formal requests to have humans classified as pursuit predators. The Galactic Security Council demanded emergency protocols for endless chase capabilities. Someone had started a petition to require humans to wear tracking beacons for the peace of mind of slower species. I believe, General Vketer said carefully, their chrome plating now showing distinct stress fractures. We have sufficient data on your endurance capabilities. Though there is one detail that concerns me. They paused, as if dreading the answer. You mentioned this was base training. Yeah, just regular aerobic work. Nothing like marathon training blocks or ultra preparation. Those get pretty intense. The medical officer, who had just recovered from their earlier shock, promptly fainted again. Dr. Xthrillick's skin had given up on colors entirely and was now displaying abstract expressionist patterns. Even the security drones seemed to be huddling closer together in their corner, their threat assessment protocols thoroughly traumatized. Only Zip appeared delighted, their markings pulsing with academic fervor. Lieutenant Chen, could you explain more about these marathon training blocks? For research purposes, of course. The sound of Dr. Xthrillik's data pad shattering on the floor echoed through the suddenly very quiet chamber. After the endurance testing incident, the evaluation team insisted on a mandatory recovery period. Sarah sat in what they called a planetary-grade reinforced chair, sipping water while Dr. Xthrillik consulted with a panel of xenobiologists about human recovery protocols. "Really, I'm fine," Sarah assured them. "This was just a light workout. I usually do some mobility work after running anyway." "Light workout," General Keter muttered, adding another note to their ever-growing human threat assessment file. "Perhaps while we calibrate the next set of equipment, you could explain more about typical human physical culture. For tactical analysis purposes, of course." "Sure." Sarah pulled out her phone again. "Here's a great documentary about the CrossFit Games. It really shows how diverse human fitness can be." The facility's AI, which had been tasked with analyzing the video feed, immediately flagged it as potential military training footage. Emergency alerts began flashing throughout the complex. "Wait, no, this is just a sporting event," Sarah tried to explain as containment protocols activated. "Look, here's the documentary description. Fittest on Earth. Following athletes as they compete in the CrossFit Games, performing grueling workouts to claim the title of fittest person on Earth. Competitive evolution DTECTE. The AI blared. NIT8 QUAR ANTIE procedures. That's not what it. Sarah sighed as shield barriers descended around the room. Could someone override the AI? This is just a fitness competition. Dr. Xthrillik, whose skin had finally settled on a permanent state of anxiety-induced iridescence, managed to halt the quarantine sequence. Please explain how this is not military training. The footage shows humans engaging in extreme physical trials, carrying heavy loads, performing tactical movements. It's for fun, Sarah insisted. People train all year to compete in these events. There are different divisions for different skill levels, point systems, rankings. You're saying, Zip interjected, their markings pulsing with academic interest, that humans created a systematic method of ranking themselves based on physical capabilities, voluntarily. Well, yeah, the CrossFit Games are just one example. There's also powerlifting meets, Olympic weightlifting competitions, strongman events. Strongman? General Keter's plating rattled. You have an entire category of competition dedicated to maximum force production. Oh, you'd love this. Sarah brightened, pulling up another video. Check out this guy pulling a transport aircraft. And here's the Atlas Stones event. They lift these huge concrete balls onto platforms. The world's strongest man competition is amazing. The room's threat assessment system began smoking as it tried to process the footage. 3 different classification committees demanded immediate meetings. Someone in Galactic Intelligence started a file labeled Human Ritual Combat Traditions. But why? A noob xenobiologist, who had joined the growing crowd of observers, asked, what evolutionary advantage could be gained from such voluntary stress? It's not about evolution, Sarah explained. It's about challenging yourself, seeing what you're capable of, pushing your limits, you know. Pushing limits. Dr. Xthrillik's skin displayed error messages in 17 different languages. You mean humans actively seek to exceed their established capabilities? On purpose? Of course. That's how you get stronger. Progressive overload, specificity of adaptation, periodization of training. They have a systematic methodology for exceeding biological limitations, Zip whispered excitedly, their markings now resembling complex mathematical equations. The cultural implications alone. The facility's AI, which had been analyzing the conversation, suddenly classified all human fitness terminology as potential mimetic hazards. Warning screens flashed across every display. Caution. Exposure to human exercise, Conan CEPCs, Mele CAUs Hisoikological Distress in non-human species. Oh, come on, Sarah protested as more containment protocols activated. Look, I'll show you some beginner workout videos. Nothing extreme, just basic movements that anyone can try. The footage of a standard aerobics class caused 3 different species to file for cultural protection measures. The concept of feeling the burn was classified as voluntary self-harm. When Sarah tried to explain high-intensity interval training, the facility's ethics board had to convene an emergency session. Perhaps, General Vketer suggested, their chrome plating now showing distinct signs of stress-induced corrosion. We should focus on documenting these practices rather than demonstrating them. Good idea, Sarah agreed. I have this great app that tracks all my workouts. See, here's my training log from last month. The sight of her weekly volume metrics caused the xenobiologist to need immediate psychological counseling. Dr. Xthrillik's skin began displaying 404 error. Cultural context not found in a repeating pattern. Only Zip seemed enthused, their markings now incorporating complex periodization charts. Fascinating. And you say these personal records are meant to be regularly broken. The sound of General Vketer updating their invasion defense protocols was drowned out by the facility's AI desperately trying to classify human fitness culture as a self-replicating phenomenon requiring galactic-level containment measures. After 3 separate committee meetings and a facility-wide psychological wellness check, the evaluation team gathered in what they now called the Human Containment Chamber. The room had been reinforced with battleship-grade materials, and the observation windows were now thick enough to withstand small meteorite impacts. We have designed, Dr. Xthrillik announced, their skin displaying what might have been either confidence or resigned acceptance, the ultimate physical assessment course. It combines multiple gravity fields, environmental hazards, and endurance challenges. Our simulations indicate it should be challenging, even for your unique capabilities. Sarah peered at the holographic display showing the course layout. Oh cool, this looks fun. General Vketer's plating creaked. Fun was not the intended. Never mind. Please note that this course was designed using data from our most extreme survival training programs. No single species has ever completed more than 40% off. Is that a climbing wall that changes gravity? Sarah interrupted, eyes lighting up. And look at that obstacle course. The shifting platforms under variable atmospheric pressure are a nice touch. The course is designed to be impossible, Dr. Xthrillik explained carefully. We included elements that are mathematically incompatible with known biological limitations. The gravity shifts alone should make sustained movement physically. Do you have a weight vest I could borrow? Sarah asked, already doing warm-up stretches. Might as well make it interesting. The room went silent except for the sound of Zip furiously taking notes and what might have been General Vketer quietly weeping. A weight vest. The facility's AI seemed to be having trouble processing the request. You wish to add additional mass, voluntarily. Sure. On Earth, we use them all the time for training. Makes regular movements more challenging, helps build strength and endurance. I usually use about 20 pounds, but I'm flexible. Dr. Xthrillik's skin began displaying mathematical equations proving why this should be impossible. 3 physical theorists in the observation room started arguing about whether they needed to rewrite the laws of biomechanics. Very well, General Vketer said with grim satisfaction. If you insist. But I must warn you. This course was designed by our top military engineers specifically to. Sarah was already entering the starting zone, borrowed weight vest securely fastened. Ready when you are. Should I try to beat any particular time, or just go at a comfortable pace? The course began with a vertical climbing section under 1.5 G. Sarah scaled it like she was taking a casual walk, pausing only to comment on the interesting texture of the handholds. When the gravity shifted to 2G in the middle of a complex jumping sequence, She adjusted her movement patterns so smoothly that two physics experts demanded to check the gravity generators. Fascinating adaptation to changing gravitational forces, Zip exclaimed, their markings now incorporating complex motion tracking patterns. The neural processing speed required to. Look out! Dr. Xthrillick's warning came too late. Sarah had reached the supposedly impossible obstacle, a series of suspended rings under alternating gravity fields. Instead of being stymied by the contradictory forces, she turned it into what she called a fun dynamic movement flow, linking techniques that the course designers hadn't even considered possible. "This is great," she called out, swinging through spatial distortions that should have reduced most beings to quantum uncertainty. Kind of like my weekend Parker sessions, but with better variables. The observation room had descended into chaos. The physics team was frantically rewriting equations. The medical staff had given up trying to explain her vital signs. Even the facility's AI seemed to be having an existential crisis, its threat assessment protocols caught in an infinite loop of trying to categorize what it was seeing. 17 minutes later, Sarah jogged across the finish line, barely breaking a sweat. "That was awesome," she said enthusiastically. "Mind if I run it again? I think I spotted some efficiency improvements I could make on the anti-gravity section." Dr. Xthrillick's skin had given up on colors entirely and was now displaying an out-of-order message. General Kitter had sunk into a corner, mumbling something about rewriting the entire military tactical handbook. Again, one of the course designers squeaked, "You want to do it again?" "Yeah, but first, hey Zip, could you help me adjust this vest? Might as well add a few more pounds to make it interesting." The sound of multiple theoretical physics textbooks being simultaneously thrown into recycling units echoed through the facility. "Lieutenant Chen," Dr. Xthrillick managed, their translator struggling with the concept. "When you say, 'make it interesting,' you mean you want to make it more difficult. Of course. That's how you improve, right? Progressive overload, gradually increasing the challenge." Sarah trailed off, noticing the fresh wave of horror spreading through the observation room. "Oh, sorry. Should I not mention training principles again? I forgot about the mimetic hazard classification." In their corner, General Kitter had begun drafting a proposal to classify Earth itself as a hypergravity death world that somehow produced physically impossible life forms. For recreational purposes, 2 days later, Sarah stood before the Galactic Federation's Classification Committee. The hearing chamber, originally designed for standard diplomatic proceedings, had been reinforced with enough structural support to withstand what they now called human activity levels. The committee members sat behind impact-resistant barriers, just to be safe. After extensive analysis, the committee had announced their crystalline form carefully stabilized to prevent stress fractures. "We have been forced to create an entirely new physical classification system. The current categories are simply inadequate." Sarah nodded politely, trying not to fidget. She'd been hoping to get in a quick workout before the hearing, but apparently the facility's insurance wouldn't cover it. Furthermore, a reptilian committee member added, their scales still pale from watching the test footage. "We are implementing new safety protocols for all human-occupied spaces. All equipment must be rated for at least triple the previous maximum stress tolerances." "That seems a bit excessive," Sarah started to say, but was interrupted by General Kitter, who had apparently been promoted to head of human containment protocols. "Excessive." Their chrome plating, freshly replaced after the stress damage from the testing, gleamed under the chamber lights. "You completed our impossible course twice, the second time with additional weight, while suggesting ways to make it more interesting. Our definition of excessive has undergone significant revision." Dr. Xthrillick, whose skin had finally regained its ability to display coherent colors, stepped forward with a datapad. "We have prepared a preliminary report for the Galactic Federation. However, we're still debating several key points, such as how to classify human recreational physical activities without causing widespread panic." "Oh, that reminds me," Sarah said brightly. "I've been meaning to ask. Do you have any gym facilities on the station? My training plan has some specific requirements for. The sound of multiple emergency containment shields activating drowned out the rest of her question. We are actually here, the committee head continued quickly, to discuss your acceptance into the Joint Species Special Operations Program. Though at this point, we're more concerned about protecting other species from human training methods than the other way around. Speaking of training, Zip chimed in from their new position as lead researcher of human physical studies. Lieutenant Chen has agreed to let me document her regular exercise routine for academic purposes. The medical team immediately put in a request for additional psychological support staff. Yes, well, Dr. Xthrillic intervened, their skin showing warning symbols. We've classified that research as need to know with highest security clearance. We can't risk certain concepts spreading through the general population. Already we've had reports of young members of various species attempting to. What was the term? Get swole. Sarah tried to suppress a smile as General Fketer continued reading from their datapad. The final classification report includes several key recommendations. First, all human participants in the program must wear power limiters and warning labels. Warning labels? Sarah asked. Yes, specifically. Caution. Human physical activities may cause psychological distress in observers and warning. Concepts of progressive overload may induce existential crisis. Additionally, the committee head added, we're implementing mandatory briefings for all species who may come in contact with humans. Key points include, no, they're not using mechanical assistance. Yes, they do this for fun. And please do not attempt to understand their relationship with gravity. Sarah noticed several younger aliens in the back of the chamber hurriedly taking notes despite the warning glares from their superiors. She had a feeling Zip wasn't the only one interested in human physical culture. Finally, Dr. Xthrillic concluded, their skin displaying what might have been either resignation or amazement. We've added a new categorical classification for Earth itself. Hypergravity death world with physically impossible inhabitants who somehow made it worse. That's a bit long for a classification, Sarah pointed out. Yes, well, we had to be specific. Otherwise, no one would believe. Dr. Xthrillic trailed off as their datapad displayed an alert. What do you mean, unauthorized exercise activity detected in Sector 7? General Fketer quickly accessed their security feed. The footage showed a group of young aliens attempting to perform what appeared to be burpees. Several were wearing makeshift weight vests. It appears, Zip noted, their markings pulsing with barely contained excitement, that some concepts may have already spread despite containment protocols. Fascinating. We should document this cultural transmission. Meeting adjourned. The committee head announced hastily, Lieutenant Chen, you're accepted into the program. Please report to your new squad tomorrow, and please try not to demonstrate any more physical capabilities without filing the proper hazard documentation first. As Sarah left the chamber, she could hear the committee frantically discussing containment protocols for what they were calling the human fitness incident. Behind her, Zip was already compiling research notes on the spontaneous emergence of cross-species exercise culture. Sarah checked her watch. She still had time for a quick workout before dinner. After all, as she'd learned on Earth, and was now apparently teaching the galaxy, progress only comes when you push your limits, even if those limits weren't supposed to exist in the first place.